You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 24th, 2025 meeting of the Long Beach Sign Design Presentation. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Shall we begin? It is 1 o'clock. For everybody on Zoom and in the audience here, we have a few people in the audience here. Thank you for joining us for this initial presentation that John has been working on. Thank you for the council for approving the funds for this. This is a preliminary show of what work has been done. So at this point, I think it would be best to let him present to everyone, and then we reserve comments until the end. Does that sound good for everyone? So, John, do you want to take control here and start presenting?
I will. Yes. Let's see. Hello, everybody. So hopefully everybody can see my screen here today. My name is John Rubel. I'm the landscape architect and owner of Planned Environment Associates. We're out of Chesterton, Indiana. We've done a lot of work with within the town of Long Beach residential projects. I've seen some familiar faces on the Zoom call here too. So hello, Brian, to you today. So right now we've met with JD before. This is kind of a preliminary look at the existing town signage, some early concepts for what maybe we could do going forward, and also kind of setting the template for just the overall branding and the image of the town too, for kind of these arrival sequences. So I'll flip through this. Just to give everybody a little bit of background here, there's a few different kind of signs in town right now. We've got these existing brick monuments. They're off of Lakeshore Drive in a handful of locations. I have a map for those. We have these welcome signs here. The beach stops have their own kind of unique signage. And then the street signs, stop signs, those are kind of very utilitarian at this time. We've got some varying fonts and colors on here. We can kind of talk about consistency going forward too. And, and just the welcome to Long Beach, these signs. So what kind of messaging do we want on them? Is the contractor registration, the most important thing to welcome people in the town. So we looked at a map here. The blue circles show all the beach stops. The red circles show all the existing brick monuments. And then the yellow circles are these opportunities for some new kind of gateway signages. These are right at the entrances into town. So initially we started looking at town's logo, the signage, the colors, everything too. This all needs to be verified with the town. This is the best, highest resolution logo I could find at the time. So we'll kind of work on just getting the proper documentation together for that. These were the colors that I had kind of picked off of here that were, maybe these are the basis for any kind of signage going forward, or does it just kind of take a black motif, something a little more classic style. We did go out, we measured all of the existing brick monuments. If we're going to kind of affix new signage onto them, want to make sure that they're a standard size, that, all of these, I believe that there was 12 different ones of these are all similar size. So if we're going to do a standard signage, that it fits on all of the brick monuments too. So don't need to bore you with all the details, but basically went through, measured everything, got averages, the highest low size. Most of them were what I would say are fairly consistent size wise to very only minor differences. Well, the existing signs are in decent condition. They are historic too. So we're kind of considering some landscape upgrades around the signs, some maybe signage affixed to the sign of welcome to Long Beach type of thing. And then there are some existing lights on a lot of these columns too. Maybe thought going forward about switching out to some LED and a similar type of historic light fixture too. So for initial look, I kind of looked at kind of taking those the columns that were the brick monuments, and can we kind of create these new places along Lakeshore Drive? So as you kind of enter into the town, a couple different options. So we kind of mimic the brick monuments. We're limited on the amount of space we have within the right of way here. We don't want to make anything too big. That's going to start hindering, traffic and people getting by through here too. So kind of looking at monuments, and maybe there's an idea of a sign kind of affixed to the side of these is kind of one early option. Potentially maybe the sign could be built right onto the monuments, and this would be something that could be applied to the existing brick monuments too. Or since we do have a little bit more room to do these become a little more grand for the main entrances into the town too, along Lakeshore Drive, we could have some branding of the road name as well. And again, kind of are we integrating lights from the existing monuments, or a good way, I think, to really highlight these opportunities here. So Lakeshore Drive, we had a few different options for those, and these could be applied to either the west or the east end of the project. We also look at Chastleton coming into town in the south. Now, this is a location where we, based on the county's information, we have a much tighter right-of-way there. There's only 40 feet of right-of-way here. And you can kind of see in this top left image, the right-of-way might be shifted a little bit to the right, but the county's information isn't 100% accurate here too. But this is the idea where, again, we pick up the same the column motif to with some affixed signage onto them. So there's some consistency on both Lakeshore Drive and Chastleton as you're coming into the community too. And again, the opportunity where we could just fix them on the side, or affix them directly onto the sign as well. The last location I kind of looked at too was Moore Road as you're coming in off Montclair. There's a little bit of a sliver here where we've got some opportunity to maybe recreate the actual kind of brick monument sign similar to the ones that we have off of Lakeshore Drive, or something similar to that, I should say. Or we could look at kind of maybe taking that same kind of sign panel that we had developed for the columns, but making it something a little bit more grander as you pull in off of Moore Road there. So again, the idea is maybe there's one tall column with a light and it steps down similar to the Lakeshore Drive monuments. Or we could do something a little more kind of, I would say, traditional, where you have two similar size columns on either side with a welcome to Long Beach, the signage in the middle. And again, there's a lot of options that we could do for the actual signage, what the wording wants to be on it, what the coloring is, but just wanted to use this preliminary opportunity just to see if we're kind of in this, in the right ballpark, and gather some preliminary feedback on just the overall design ideas. The signs itself, there's many different ways that these can be made: HDPE, half metal, just printed vinyl too. There's standard shape options, there's custom shape options. So we'll get into kind of all of those details as we further refine, and kind of what colors maybe want to go with for here. Part of this, with the town being established in the 1920s, we really started looking at some kind of Art Deco appropriate fonts to look at for this. Now, these are just a handful that I threw out there as a starting point just for some initial feedback. Kind of the blockier types of lettering here, the impetus or the Broadway. Or there are some other kind of, I guess, a little more contemporary styles, but still with the homage to the past of the Mendel and the Casablanca styles as well. There's a lot of standard light fixtures out there that are LED compliant, well, that we can match to upgrade the existing columns going forward. This is just a handful of them. There's more that we can get into picking out exacts and maybe replacements are considered. You didn't see this too much, but we also measured all the beach stop signs. They're all fairly consistent with the exception of Top 24. That one is the anomaly of all of them out there. These are starting to show their age. As you can see, the paint's chipping. They're starting to rust as well too. So, as you go forward with maybe even, considering replacements of those, you're getting into, utilizing the same types that we're using on the signage materials, standardizing the post and any kind of arm brackets that might be on those too. And the same with the street signs. They get all tied together in kind of a family of signage. The beach shop signs, the street signs, everything can kind of have a unique potential Long Beach touch to it too. So that was just kind of a quick overview of kind of where we're at with the initial design process. I'll kind of scroll back to some of these early concepts here, and I think just kind of open it up to some dialogue and some feedback from everybody. I mean, this is just kind of our first ideas. Really want to kind of hear more what everybody else is thinking, and work to help build a consensus here.
John, I just want to jump in here and thank you for the work that you've done here and taking this and expanding it into kind of an overall branding of all the signs and looking at this in the big picture, just not 5 entrance signs, but everything in totality. So I do appreciate that. And I just want to confirm before we open it up to everyone's comments is that what the underlying assumption here is we're working within existing right-of-ways, and therefore that's driving some footprints, especially on Chastleton, where we perhaps would like to see the flares on the side, whatever. But this is the room that we have and the setbacks, et cetera. So we're working with what we have. Is that correct?
That's my correct assumption. I'm trying to work within the existing right-of-ways of the town. Now, I will say on Chastleton, from my understanding, the town does own the parcels to the west of Chastleton here. So there may be some opportunities to bump this out, to redo the right potentially. But yeah, at this point of time, we're trying to fit into what's existing.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Open to comments. I know that we have at least 3 members of council on Zoom, but open to comments from everyone about the work that John has done.
I have a question, John. John James Brown, good to see you.
Hi, Jan. How are you?
Great. On the east side of Chastleton, is the property Michigan City or Long Beach? Do you know?
On the east side, it's Long Beach. If you see this purple line right here, this is the Hacienda parking lot. Basically, the last stall in there is the line where the town's line to the north or the south is here. So we're working in that zone. To the west, the town owns a little farther south, too, on both sides.
Perfect, thank you. And then lighting, have you considered using dark sky lighting parameters for the lights? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Jan. Where's my pictures of the different light fixtures? So a lot of these have the caps on top too that help prevent light from going straight up to the sky. The current light that's out there has a little bit of a glass top that does allow, I think, some light to filter through. So it's going to be a discussion of how, matching historic versus, proceeding in kind of a dark sky effort too. So, I like to promote dark sky, especially on the lakefront there, get the nice, not contributing too much to light pollution here, but I do recognize there's a historic aspect to the light that's on those columns currently.
Yeah,
Great.
and that's a great point too, Janice. Over time on the existing lights that we do have, we would want to transition those over to something dark night maybe when they need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Correct.
Just over time.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be my next question, because doing it all at once, well, some of them are originals, I think. I'm not quite sure of that, but that's, maybe there's another use for them as we, so we can reuse instead of recycle.
Whether 100 years old, we'll just go through it at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Other comments?
This is Kendra. I love it. I would just say at first glance, I love option 1 for Lakeshore Drive. As opposed to
this one here.
Yeah. I like the look of that, but I'm just wondering if we have enough room with that hanging, or if with the sign kind of protruding out to the side, if there's enough room or somebody on a bike is going to run into it or whatever. But I love the look of that, like just visually. And then I love the look of option B for Moore Road. Those are just, again, my opinions. And then,
Which is this one.
yep, I like that one. And then I love the heritage version of the light on top. And I really appreciate it. I wasn't expecting your presentation to be consistent with like making things cohesive within the town and kind of making them, which I really appreciate. I love all this. I hope that we can incorporate all this. I like the look of that heritage lamp. And then the only thing that I maybe it's not that I don't like, but I don't think I will personally like the putting signage on any existing pillars that are already there, like I'm like into 21 or in at 8 or whatever wherever the pillars are that lead inward to the streets. I'd like to see the Long Beach or the Welcome or whatever you decide at the entrances, but then leave the pillars alone where they stand. Maybe just make them all consistent with the new light fixtures and the new street signs. I wish we could get back the old street signs that they took away in the early 90s. Those were the best, but this looks really great. Thank you for everything. I like it.
Well, thanks. No, I appreciate that. And I think that's a good point about the signs coming into the brick monuments too. I think I agree with you on, some extent here where these were the historic ones. Let's kind of keep them as is and keeps the signage to the entrances as well. It was just another opportunity where we could just start tying everything together. And I thought it was kind of part of my job too, is to take a step back. Let's cohesively look at everything as we're starting to get into these discussions. I think it helps facilitate decisions we'll make down the road once we're looking at everything cohesively a little bit.
Absolutely. That's it for me.
Brian, I think you're on mute.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, Brian.
Hi. I have a question about the stops, the individual beach stops, the signs you said that are deteriorating. Is the goal to fix those or to eliminate them? Those.
I think that's a question for the group here. To fix, these are sheet metal pieces that were probably custom done, 50 years ago now. They probably could be taken off and restored to, or do we want to try to just match this with more modern type of materials too? There's a couple different options we can go there, obviously.
But Brian, I just my opinion, I think the objective would be to keep the stop signs but integrate them into a cohesive with the other signs that we talk about building, or again, to your point, exactly wanted to add to the existing pillars just to make sure that we're using the same sailboat. That sailboat is sometimes different, but yet a cohesive brand across, but keeping those signs and stops, I think, would be my vote. But Ken just gave the thumbs up. Your thoughts on that, Brian? Are you in agreement with that?
I am. My other question would be I don't know how to phrase these are the stop signs, but individual like stop signs and speed limit signs, is there a goal to kind of do something with those as well, or just have the standard stop signs and street signs? Are we going to try to have some cohesiveness through all of the signage, or are we going to leave some of the mandatory traffic signage alone?
The way I viewed it, Brian, was I think this is an opportunity here. This is an opportunity to tie things together. It's not a necessity. It's not a requirement. And I understand that there's going to be financial impacts to changing all of your stop signs to more, aesthetic, type of pole and everything. to, you know, these are something I can kind of, you know, if this is something the town is considering, I can help you try to quantify these. We can try to understand, you know, replacement strategy or timing or what that cost might be down the road too.
That would be my vote, is to see if we can do everything to keep that cohesiveness. And I think that will add with the branding of everything of the town.
And Brian, just to be clear, in the current scope of work that the council has funded, this is outside of that, but John was nice enough to present the concept of, here's, if we want to keep going in this direction with this signage, with the signage for the stops, now is the time to contemplate all of these things, and as stuff needs to get replaced, perhaps do it this way, but that is outside of the scope of work that council did fund at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Another question. John knows where I live, Workhouse is in Long Beach. It is Shorewood, it's around Lake Claire, and we don't have markings saying this is the start of Long Beach. First, you go from Michigan City, so we had to ask for signage there for pillars to say, you know, that you're entering the branding or.
Yeah, Jan, you're right on. I'm sorry, but I do on my map, I'm showing the circles for both of these locations here that you talked about. There's room in the right of ways there. You know, I thought kind of whatever we might pick for Chastleton and, you know, Lakeshore Drive could be applied to these, you know, similar locations too.
Thank you, sorry, I missed that on the map.
Oh, no problem. I just didn't have a single standalone sheet for those.
And since we're on this of these the geographic, I see there's the 6 locations into Long Beach. Is our goal to keep all 6 of those the same, or I know there's more room in other, like off of Moore Road? Are we going to have different variations of one design, or is our goal to have just one design for all 6 locations?
That's a good comment, Brian, because what I was showing on Moore Road was definitely different than those pillars. So, you know, we could take the Moore Road example and bring it on to Shorewood or them too. We're kind of limited on Lakeshore Drive and Chastleton, what we can do in the West, but I think once we get into Fairway, Shorewood, Moore Road, it could be kind of more of these traditional, I'll call them wall type of monuments here.
And that would not fit on Chastleton?
Currently, as I'm seeing this, no. There's only a 40-foot right-of-way on Chastleton, which is very, very narrow. Too. For reference, Lakeshore Drive is a 50-foot, and that's fairly narrow too. No, this is all based on county GIS information. We could dive a little bit deeper with town engineering. Is there some opportunities here as this, you know, the right of way lines change somewhere that county information is caught up?
Is there, Ryan, raising the point, is there a preference within this group, because this is just an open comment of uniformity of all of the variants, of all of the signs, or variations on the theme? Is there any preference amongst this group?
I would say for sure for me, as much uniformity as possible. I mean, that's kind of why we're here, because everything's a bit hodgepodge and has been over the years. Like I think Civic originally put in those signs like stop 30, stop 20, whatever, and it's all been working, but as much uniformity as we can have, because we're going to have to make decisions because of space anyways. Like they're completely different. Lakeshore Drive is this way, Chastleton's this way, Moore Road, where that current sign is, it would look just weird to have 2 pillars standing there. You almost have to do the 2 pillars with the thing in the middle, because so I would say as much consistency as possible would be best.
My name is Patrick Cannon. I live at 2005 Nethercliff. The screen that we're on, I really like the look of those pillars with the signage off of the pillar. I'm taking it that there's not enough room on Chastleton to do any sort of flare off of that, like there are at the different stops, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. You can just kind of see here with these the lines on this drawing. I'm very tight within the right of way now. I and even we don't want to come out with too many flares too close to the road here as well too. So the only way that we could do it is if it would be parallel to the street, and the flares would go off that way, but there wouldn't be as much of an impact. These are more you're driving through them.
And real quickly,
So-
what do those signs say? Do they say "Welcome to Long Beach" or do? Because what would the other?
Yeah,
what would
but
the-
right now I just had these just say "Welcome to Long Beach." There's room to say if there's a town brand, a beach community or any other information on here. But I just kind of kept them simple at the initial.
And what would the back say? You're leaving Long Beach.
Goodbye.
I could, yeah. Some communities do say goodbye, thanks for coming. Some just leave them blank too. So
I would just add, I agree with Kendra with regards to the uniformity aspect of things. If you're going to go with the singular pillar, I kind of like the use of that pillar at all the entrance stops, with maybe the one that Janice was talking about. I'm not familiar with.
Oh, that pillar would be fine.
Okay.
It's 100.
So I think uniformity would be what I would be concerned about. And I really like the look of the pillar with the signage being off of the pillar. It kind of, when you put the sign on the pillar, it takes away from the pillar, in my opinion. You don't see the full detail of the pillar, but if that's the only option because of the limitations, then I guess so be it. My other concern would be that the signs, and it appears that you've done that the signs incorporate the black and white of the Lakeshore Drive stop signs, as opposed to the kind of town seal colors that were used on the signs that are currently posted. So I really like the black and white and trying to come up just with uniformity throughout. And I also would add, I would hope that at some point the town would look into street signs, and I think it's great that you have the foresight to look and present some information on that regard. And I also, as long as we're going with black and white, my preference on that would also be the black and white sign as you show, as you showed as an example.
And Pat, not to interrupt, John and I had a conversation when we were going around and stuff and did little field trips to try and dial the logos and fonts and the black and white into proper architectural history of establishment around 1921, or West 21, and that was driving that concept of leading into Art Deco architect, but that type of concept, and that's what's driving a lot of this, and I think it's great. Whether there's details though, of course, concepts. I agree with the black and white, the 1920s.
I think you've done a really good job.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, and I appreciate JD kind of giving me some good direction here to start with, and it's part of my job to kind of just look cohesively at everything. Maybe some things that you guys weren't even thinking about, and bringing my kind of eye and expertise into this process.
John,
Can I say something? This is Ellen Lynch. I love
Hello,
everything.
yes.
Yeah, I love everything. I agree with the cohesiveness and everything. However, I'd like to caution putting pillars or those signs there on the corner of Cheselton and Lakeshore Drive. we have semis that come through there, and if you look, you can see all the ruts and all that, and it would absolutely cut the view of people making turns there. It's one of the busiest intersections in Long Beach, so I would caution about where you would have put that. That would be my only drawback. So, but other than that, your presentation's been fabulous. You're looking out towards the future is awesome. So that's all.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So just for reference, these columns, we were thinking that they would be on Lakeshore Drive, kind of at both ends. Stop 13 there's not too much going on. There's no intersections there really to worry about too. 31 is where Moore Road comes in, you know, as long as I think we pull in a little bit, and that's going to even be working with that Sherland Hills group and, you know, finding that sweet spot of where that would even go to. And then Chastleton would be just kind of right by the hacienda down there. Not really proposing bringing anything up to the intersection of Chastleton and Lakeshore Drive at this time.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then
cool.
also in consultation with the chief of police. I think that's about that where, from a safety perspective, where they still to ensure that we're not creating unsafe.
Absolutely, and even from snow plowing aspects, and just from general maintenance too. You know, these were preliminary concepts, but I think, you know, make sure everybody in the town is comfortable, you know, with the setbacks that we're having, and that's one thing I did try to indicate how with kind of clear zones I might have from the edge of pavement too, just for everybody's kind of quick references. This might distribute into other departments.
My only other question, and it probably will be better directed towards JD, is is there a timetable, or where do you go from this stage?
So the council approved this, the scope of work that's approved by the council is 2 steps. This is step 1. And then the next step is taking feedback here and then working to then modify, again, taking back into our feedback. That would take care of it. That would be the scope, that would be the general initial scope of work. That has been funded at this point. After that, I think we would then rely on John. What is the next, what is the next step to take it from where we're at and the costs associated with it? So council actually would have something to actually look at and understand and wrap the money side of it. So that's the steps and I see of that. Can anybody else, Anita, I know you're on here as well, and then Cindy and Kendra, do you guys see that kind of going past this initial stages? Is that how you would like to see this evolve?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do is get some costs, so, you know, firm it up a bit or whatnot, get some costs associated with it and see next steps, what we can do. Yeah. A quick question while I have while I'm talking, John, can you go back to Moore Road option B?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there an option, or just throw this out there too, what do you guys think? Instead of, because this entrance is so different than the others, would it be a possibility or a cost saving or whatever, instead of the sign hanging out in the middle there, to put that welcome to Long Beach or Long Beach established 1921 or whatever down below on the brick, right where your cursor is, instead of the sign?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This one. That might be.
And a note for myself. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to throw that into the mix of something to consider for that area, but okay. Thank you.
John, another question, going back to Chastleton at Hacienda.
Yes.
So what, it's 6 feet from the roadway?
Yeah,
Wow, that is tight. So
it's very tight.
Yeah, one of my concerns, well, it could be a good thing or it's a concern. The Marquette Greenway is going in. It'll be put in probably from Michigan City, well, near Liberty, and it's going to go on the track, the north side of the Amtrak, and it will go through by Carwick at the Alps. So there's gonna be the trail there. People might be riding their bikes a lot more often from the Marquette Trail getting off and then come to stop 24. If people are riding their bikes, I mean, Ellen and I take care of a little sign there, we put decorations on it, the current one. Even with a little bit of snow that we have, there's snow that piles up really close to that sign now, and I think it's probably infringing on the property line that's outside of the parkway there. And that low sign hanging off, while I love it, we might need to consider headroom. Because, or the other side, good, idea, yeah, because, you have to, I walk that road and you have to ditch off into the grass quite a bit because of the traffic.
And I think that also is a good point, that if we have space to work within, is to push it as wide as possible, if we put signage on the outside, so the road can be expanded for when it's time to get
For bike path.
go back that. And there, it's just trying to push it away from the road as much as possible, and before approaching.
So for the council members, it might be interesting to see what it would take to do an easement for that property line. That happens sometimes. I've been involved with an easement before with cities and property lines, but it depends who owns the properties on each side.
Yeah, I mean, it would appear, John, if I'm reading what you presented, is that Carwick is the most narrow, and it's only on the Hacienda side is that the problem Jacksonville that would be. Probably only be asking for 4 feet, right, in one area, which, by the way, would be out the council that in 2024 suspended. There's going to be setbacks going in that commercial area, so this would not impact any building space.
Yeah,
That's it, this would just make it set just the parking.
yeah.
Right, Jan, I think that's a great point here. That would take a little more effort, but I have seen before we're getting like maybe a signage easement or something where we've got a little bit more room to place something off the road or whatever, and you're just kind of carving out a little bit of that property that's not really being utilized anyways. But that's a little more of a process to go down. I do agree with Castleton that this. If we're going to go with the signs mounted on the side, this really needs to be looked at by, emergency services, snowplow, everything too. Is that really going to be restricting Castleton more than we want it to?
Yeah, because I love that hanging off of that edge too.
Yeah.
It's just needs to be set. I know this that came up with chief as well, was getting power to some of these. You saw.
I mean, for me, is obviously keeping it expensive down the paradigm, as well as utilize solar as much as we can.
Great.
Because running electric, super expensive. And
Yeah, meters and
being a little more environmental friendly.
yes, great, thanks. I love it all, John, thanks.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's beautiful.
So next steps as a part of this scope of work, just to clarify, this group, the direction is to go with these pillars with the signage off the pillar. Is that correct? Is that where everybody wants, the direction we want to get John? Okay. Yeah.
I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that was what I kind of took away is the preference for everybody, but with the understanding of how does that impact Castleton too, that really fits in here.
Well, on the right side, I mean, I think it would be interesting to see what I'm gonna call offset sign, but that's not the right term perhaps, but take them and put them on the other side and not in the road, or potentially a hazard where they could a biker could hit a bicyclist, yeah, perhaps on that side. Would the group like to see that? What that would look like? Because the same concerns on Lakeshore Drive.
Could if we did the signage on the other side, could we put a little wall underneath it like you have on one of the examples of Moore Road?
I think,
You say if we went to this side of the street?
You're looking.
well, we just talked
Go to
about,
Moore Road, if you would. Can you go to the Moore Road slide?
Yeah.
One more back, I think. You had another example from Moore Road.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this would start being an opportunity, as like Jan got into, if we could get an easement to get a little bit more space here. I now could, come off of this side, put this, and then we could have our sign in here. I'm just getting restricted by where the right of way line is right now. But if you had more room, then most certainly.
I think it just, I mean, I'm obviously no engineer, but that just looks like more money to me. More busy, more money, not as uniform. And like, if we can work it out as your option B or option A with the easement and stuff, that would be my preference rather than trying to, because I think the sign hanging off the other side looks a little awkward, like, and the trees would probably get in the way and maybe you wouldn't be able to see it. I don't know. I guess I can't visualize it, but
I would say, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I would say, to your point, I think the signs on the other side look awkward. If the signs can't hang off on the side, I'd almost rather see them on the pillar.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think I agree with that too.
I agree with
That's
it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great,
Go for the easement. I mean, it should be, I don't think it would be that difficult.
Right. I would say if you could go for an easement with the sign hanging off, with the sign on the pillar being the secondary choice. I think it does a little awkward on coming off the other side.
So just push it.
Right.
But I guess then, can we look at the Lakeshore Drive entrances and see how much space we have, especially on the East Lakeshore Drive? Do we have the space there, if it's also on the offset option, not to impact any bicyclists or create safety?
I believe so. Yeah, from on the east end of Lakeshore Drive here, I had measured about 11 feet from the pavement edge to the right of way. Now, again, this isn't 100% accurate at all, but I would say it's probably within a foot or two of that. So we have a little bit more room here than we do on Chastleton.
Can you go
From what I
back?
can get.
Can you go back one slide or forward one slide? Because there was another option.
Oh, sure.
That one. Could that go on to Chastleton?
If we had more room, again, still. It's just very narrow here. It almost started eating into the roadway, and I don't want to put a wall right up against the edge of the road there. It'll get clipped. Or snowplows.
That adds a little more.
Yeah, I think you're probably trying to always try to get at least maybe 6 feet, maybe 5 to 6 feet clear of the edge of a road is ideally.
Mr. Guy?
My opinion is, I'm not really a big fan of that one that's on the screen right now, because it takes away from the historic aspect of the singular pillar going all the way down that you showed on the previous screens.
I agree with that.
That would be my preference.
Yeah, I agree with that, Pat.
Mhm.
So the direction for John is to continue to focus in on the offset signs that are on the interior to the road. Do we need any more siding scale around the top light? Is there, and where is the other work, John? Do we need any, you want some feedback on the logos and the sign itself and that formatting, the rectangular? Does this group want to see it round? Or do they like this square, that's historically accurate? John, what feedback are you looking for us in the next steps?
I think for the next steps, it sounds a lot like one of the next steps you guys need to know is what are these things going to cost too. So I think once we get into is the sign a rectangular or an oval, that's probably not going to weigh too big on the overall cost. So I think my next step is let me try to put some rough, construction cost numbers to what I think these might be. We could take these drawings and review them with police and other departments just to make sure that we're going down the right path, that it is going to be approved and reviewed upon fairly from everybody as well too. And then as that process is going out, you could be looking at easements for Castleton, understand that, and some of the details of the fonts and all that can come pretty close to later on in the project, in my opinion.
Is there any feedback that this group of citizens wants to give John about the offset sign itself? Round, circle, square, rectangle, is it current one? Do we want to send variance on that?
I like what you had.
This one, I picked the one of the standard signs that I felt was maybe most Art Deco-ish of any of them too. Kind of had the strong geometric shapes to it. However, I mean, I could see, the shield would be a little tough. But we could do something, more in the shield style as well, or the circle. So there's other different shapes out there we could play with, or pick up off of.
John, would it be possible for the next round to play with maybe a few options, the one that you have? Yeah, the shield, just kind of play with those. So the committee, the community can see a few options from your point of view to stay within Art Deco, but look at that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I'd be happy to do one of these as a shield option, another one as maybe just a circle, and if anybody else has any other shape preferences or something they would like to please feel free to share. I can run a few different examples.
I think that the one that ties to the existing style would be just interesting to see. It would be just as I just from a general scale, how big would it be?
Yeah, how big does it have to be just to put those words on in the sailboat? I'd like to see the scale of that looks.
Because the scale, the scale that you have, it's nice.
It's great. I like the scale.
And then anything from this group on fonts, what does this look like for on that?
And I can even just keep different fonts going. Maybe my question here might be, do we want to say anything more than this on the sign? I think it's just long. It doesn't even say welcome to. It's just Long Beach and a sailboat. We could pull off the welcome to. We could, I didn't see that the town has like a tagline or anything like, the place to be or something, but.
I like plastic glasses.
I agree.
I agree, because then the font could be a little bit bigger. I don't know. John, what's the size of that sign that you have in the architectural drawings?
I didn't put a dimension on it offhand. I want to say that I made these about 3x4 or something. They're fairly good size.
Yeah, good.
The sign too, and then I can work with the heights of the letters. It's potential like for the things. Since this one is shorter, maybe I want to make them longer and stack. Long Beach too. You know, I might want to play a little bit with the fonts and the layouts and, you know, readability sizes.
Cool. And then, John, I guess the other thing is, in the next round, if you could provide a little bit more deep, as we were just talking about, what is the size of the sign, right, the offset, a little bit more measuring, and then
Oh, sure.
even the light on top, because even what we're looking at seems like a light is awfully, is that to scale, or is that actually, if we scale, it's not gonna get smaller?
But yeah, so for the lights here, I think I used I think I used this town square as the what I dropped in here into the models too. So the scale will be rough, but it's all going to depend on which light you might end up choosing at the end of the day. And like I said, this was just a quick 5 that I picked, and I know the supplier has another 30 to 40 more different options out there too.
Yeah, just I think give us, what is the optimum height that we'd be looking for, just so that when we take the council on the next steps, we're talking, it could be a variety of points, but it's not
Sure.
more than certain, just in general.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I'd be happy to provide a little bit more detail and dimensions. Yeah, for the next round.
Is there any other comments for this group, for John? And again, John, thank you and well done.
Only one question I had, was there any, do you know of the original font when the town was established by any chance?
It wasn't anything I could find, Brian. I found very little of kind of, I'll call it branding information or anything here that I could match.
That could be something that could be kind of cool if we could bring back the original font or a version of it.
Yeah, and if somebody if somebody even has just a picture of that, you know, send that to me. I might be able to just do some homework and backtrack what type of font it was. You know, really all I've seen is just this kind of, it's almost Arial generic font on the town seals and logos here too.
Would that, Brian, would that be over in the community center with the rest of it? And photos and over there?
I
Maybe
think
it might, but I do know that I have seen, I don't know where it currently is, but there is some initial promotional materials that were distributed, that were like brochures urging people to buy property in Long Beach. And I know I've seen that, I think Doug Waters, the realtor, the Long Beach Realty was the one who had that. Whether that's been given over to the Historical Society, I'm not sure that would be a place to look. Or I'd be happy to reach out to Doug Waters if they're interested.
Would you do that? Sure. That'd be great, yeah, that would be super cool, something historical. So maybe we'll find out. We get over.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. Yeah, and if you want to loop me into, I love seeing historic photos or prints or anything like that, whatever I can glean from those to incorporate. I think that really makes a nice authentic tie to the branding, to the community.
Yeah. And even the old signs of Kindred as well. I didn't know that Aaron Collins talking about his friend, so interesting. Any other comments?
I think it looks great. Great start.
Well, thank you.
And on that note, John, thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. And John, I'll be in touch about the next round and when and ETA and all that kind of stuff. But thanks again for all your work.
Oh, no, thank you. It was my pleasure. And then, yeah, I'll make sure after we get off this meeting today, I will send out this PDF to JD. Feel free to distribute it to everybody else that was in attendance too, just for their own reference. And, you know, feel free to send me an email or give me a call if you have any additional comments or ideas. Thank you.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.